Up to now, the stories I've shared with you were born from ancient pacts, from whispered legends and fears hidden in the folds of folklore. These were secrets guarded by communities, by families, by traditions. But there's another kind of secret, a more modern, colder, and perhaps more relentless type. The corporate secret. Large industries, in their incessant search for resources, dig deeper than any explorer, map territories no government knows, and sometimes they find things. Things that weren't on geological maps. Anomalies that defy science and common sense. And when that happens, the protocol isn't superstition or prayer. It's a confidentiality agreement, a mass dismissal, a fabricated bankruptcy. Silence bought with money and fear. Our cities are living organisms, layers upon layers of history, construction, and forgetting. We live on the most recent layer, the surface, believing we know the entire body. But beneath the asphalt, the concrete, our daily routines, there are other systems, other arteries. Sewage networks, stone drains, power cables, and sometimes tunnels that are not on any map. Scars of abandoned projects. Forgotten veins in the body of the metropolis. After confronting mysteries in the sky, at sea, and in the depths of the earth, I decided to return to the concrete. I was drawn by an enigma that wasn't about ghosts or cosmic entities, but about an engineering secret. A story of a governmental error, buried and silenced. I thought it would be an investigation into history and conspiracy. Little did I know that by following the tracks of a train that never existed, I would find passengers who should never exist. Good evening or good morning. I am the Subterranean. Today's story takes us to the underground of London, the largest city in the United Kingdom. It is the story of an underground line that was designed, partially built, and then erased from all official records. Together, we will discover why it was abandoned, and what the engineers of the time found in the darkness that was so terrifying that they sealed the tunnels and swore never to speak of the matter again. This is a journey to the heart of a world that lives, breathes, and hunts beneath our feet. And before we embark on this ghost line, if you too are fascinated by the secrets our cities hide, leave your like to light our way. And if you want a front row seat to reality's most dangerous explorations, subscribe to the Subterranean channel and hit the bell. Each of you is another pair of eyes in the darkness, and today we will need all of them. Boarding is immediate. The doors are closing. It all began a month ago. A package arrived at my flat. A cardboard tube with no sender, no identification other than my address. Inside, there was no letter, no message. There was only a single sheet of tracing paper, yellowed and fragile with age. It was an engineering plan, a technical design of London's underground system, but it was different from any map I had ever seen. The date in the bottom corner was 1969, one of the initial projects from the time of military rule. The plan showed the lines we know today, the Central, the Piccadilly, but it also showed another one. A line that started from the Aldwych area, plunged deep beneath the old city center, and connected to tunnels that officially do not exist. The project name on the plan was Line 7, Crypt Holborn Integration. But scribbled in pencil, next to it, someone had written another name, Shadow Line. The line seemed to connect strategic points of the city, but in a strange, non-linear way. There were technical notes in the margins about the difficulty of excavation, unstable rock, presence of uncatalogued air pockets, and a note near a section called Ventilation Chamber 3 that sent a chill down my spine. Excavation interrupted. Team reassigned. Seal immediately. Superior order. That wasn't just an abandoned project. It was a secret. A secret that someone, for some reason, wanted me to discover. Who sent me that? And what was in those tunnels that needed to be sealed with such urgency? The bait had been cast, and I bit it with all my might. I traveled to London. The city is a monster of concrete and movement, an entity unto itself. My investigation would not be in folklore books, but in the living memory of the city. I started looking for retired tool workers, engineers who worked on the original constructions in the 70s. I found some in distant peripheral boroughs like Croydon. Old men with incredible stories about the construction of that underground giant. At first, when I mentioned the shadow line or the abandoned tunnels, they became evasive. But with a little persistence and the promise of anonymity, the stories began to emerge. They were fragments, corridor legends, workers' tales. "Ah, the tunnels of lament," said one, a former tunnel boring machine operator. "We used to hear it at night. A sound. It sounded like many people crying, coming from the Aldwych ventilation shaft. The boss said it was just wind, but it wasn't the sound of wind." My uncle worked on the excavation of that section. Another, a retired electrician, told me. He said his team refused to continue, that they drilled through a wall, and the air that came out was freezing cold and smelled of something dead, and that they saw movement in the darkness on the other side. The entire team was transferred to another site the next day and threatened with dismissal if they spoke about it. The stories repeated themselves. The sound of lament, the strange smell, the order of silence from above, and the most recurrent detail, the discovery of a natural cave system much larger than any geological map indicated. The official version, at the time, was that the soil instability made the Shadow Line project unfeasible and too expensive. The unofficial version, the one circulating among the workers in the tunnels, was that they had awakened something that already lived in the darkness under London, long before the city existed. I needed more than legends. I needed a guide. And that's how I found Chloe. Chloe was one of the most well-known urban explorers in London's underground scene. A young woman who knew the city's tunnel system like the back of her hand. She didn't believe in ghosts, but she believed in history and government secrets. When I showed her the Shadow Line plan, her eyes lit up. "I've heard about this," she said. "It's the holy grail for tunnel explorers. Most people think it's a legend, but this map is real." She told me she knew a possible access point, a deep maintenance shaft at Holborn Station, which had always been locked and, according to official plans, shouldn't lead anywhere. In the early hours of a Sunday, when the tube is closed for maintenance, we went. We descended service stairs, passed through noisy tunnels with giant fans, until we reached a silent, forgotten corridor. And there it was. A concrete wall, exactly as in the mine, but with a massive steel door in the middle, no handle, just an inscription painted in red. "Do not proceed. Structural risk. MOD." "MOD," I said. "The Ministry of Defense." The military police of the time. That wasn't a safety warning. It was a seal of silence. Chloe was an expert. With a set of tools, she worked on the lock for almost an hour. And with a loud click that echoed through the tunnel, the door opened. The air that came out was dense, stagnant, the smell of 50-year-old dust. Here begins what's truly scary. We entered. Our torches revealed a tunnel that was a time capsule. Tools from the era scattered on the ground, as if the workers had dropped everything and run. Old soda bottles. And graffiti on the walls, made by the workers themselves. The lament never stops. They are in the tunnels. God forgive us for waking them. We followed the rusty tracks of the line that never transported a passenger. The silence was total. Our footsteps seemed to desecrate a sanctuary, and then we began to see the fungus. A pale white fungus, growing in clumps on the walls and sleepers. It emitted a very faint phosphorescent light, a ghostly bioluminescence that allowed us to see the outline of the tunnel even with the torches off. "This isn't normal," Chloe whispered, touching the fungus with the tip of a glove. "Fungi need organic matter to grow. What is there here for it to eat?" And then we heard it. The sound of lament. It wasn't wind. It was a high-pitched sound, a mixture of clicking and crying that seemed to come from far ahead, echoing through the walls. It was the sound of something alive, and we were walking directly towards it. The tunnel ended abruptly, opening into a cavern so immense that the light from our torches could not reach the ceiling or the walls. We were in one of the air pockets the map mentioned, an underground world beneath the largest city in the United Kingdom. The bioluminescent fungus here was dense, covering the floor and walls like a carpet of pale stars, illuminating the cavern with a mortuary light. And it was in this ghostly light that we saw the nest. In the center of the cavern, there was a structure that looked like a giant beehive or termite mound, made of a mixture of clay, rock, and the same white fungus. And in it and around it were the inhabitants. They were not ghosts. They were creatures. They were vaguely humanoid, but the resemblance only made it more horrifying. Their skin was pale white, almost translucent, hairless. Their bodies were thin, with long, slender limbs and clawed fingers adapted for climbing the rocky walls. And their faces had no eyes, only nostrils and a small, round mouth, from which came the clicking and lamenting sound we had heard. They were blind. They had evolved in total darkness. There were hundreds of them. They moved with silent, eerie agility, climbing the structure, tending to their young in niches. They didn't notice us at first. They were in their own world. "My God," Chloe whispered beside me, horrified. "What are they? A lost tribe? A subterranean human evolution? Or something that was already here?" I finished. And then we made a mistake. Chloe, as she backed away, kicked a loose stone. The sound, small to us, echoed through the silent cavern like a gunshot. Instantly, all the creatures stopped. Their eyeless heads turned in our direction. They couldn't see us, but they could hear us. The lament ceased, and it was replaced by a new sound, a sharp, hungry hiss. And then they ran, from all directions, up the walls, across the floor, on the ceiling. An avalanche of pale, silent bodies coming towards us. "Run!" I yelled. The escape was a nightmare of adrenaline and darkness. We ran back into the tunnel. The army of creatures closed behind. The only thing that saved us was that they seemed to avoid the direct light of our torches, which disoriented them. We used the beams of light like whips, keeping them at bay as we ran along the tracks. Behind us, we heard their clicks and hisses, and the scratching sound of their claws on the metal of the tracks. It was the sound of the hunt. We had invaded their territory, and they wouldn't let us leave. We managed to get out. I don't know how. The adrenaline pushed us out of that labyrinth. We sealed the steel door behind us and didn't look back. Chloe was in shock. The historian of forgotten places had found a story that would never be published. I'm back in Fortaleza, but now, when I walk the streets of any large city, I feel it. I feel the weight of the unknown world that exists beneath my feet. London, Manchester, Birmingham. How many of our metropolises are just a thin layer of civilization over an abyss of life that we don't even dream exists? What were those creatures? The descendants of an indigenous people who took refuge underground centuries ago? A life form that evolved parallel to us in the darkness? Or the guardians of something even deeper? I don't have the answers, and I'm afraid no one does. And that leads me to ask you, what defines a world? Only the surface we live on? How many other ecosystems, how many other societies can exist in places we consider empty, in the depths of the ocean, under the ice of Antarctica, or just a few meters beneath the tube tracks we take every day? Are we really the owners of this planet, or just the noisy tenants on the upper floor? Leave your theories in the comments. Every idea, every thought, helps me build the map of this hidden world. If this exploration into the unknown fascinated you, subscribe to the Subterranean channel and hit the bell. Your subscription is what funds these dangerous expeditions. And now, as I promised, my next investigation will be different. It will come in 2 parts. I will no longer seek danger. This time, it came to me in a much more direct way. It is the story of a cargo ship found adrift in the middle of the Atlantic, in perfect condition, but with its entire crew of 30 men, disappeared without a trace. And the only item found on board that may provide a clue as to what happened, the captain's diary, which describes what they fished from the depths of the ocean. Thank you for descending with me today. And next time you're at an underground station at night and you hear a strange sound coming from the tunnels maybe it's not just the wind. Until next time.